Which theme park is better, Disneyland versus Universal Studios? I'm Chris, this is Topher. Together we make Yellow Productions. We do travel guides that are fun, informative, and entertaining. And in this live stream today, we're going to be comparing these two theme parks in 10 different areas. If this is your first time watching this and you're not watching the live stream but you're watching the archive, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell to turn on notifications so you can be notified of future live streams in the future. And so either you're wondering which theme park you want to visit when you visit LA, or you're just curious what's the difference. And Topher and I, this past weekend, we were in Universal Studios. We are annual pass members to Disneyland, so we know these theme parks well. And let me know what you guys think. Which park do you like better in these 10 different areas? So we're going to begin with item number 1. And by the way, if you're watching the archive, you can scrub through here, find the numbers on the hand, and that'll help you look and see which section I'm talking about. Also in the description table of contents, I've got all the different areas listed as well. And thanks to everybody who's already on the live stream. I'll give you shout outs here in just a second. All right, so number 1, we're going to talk about the park themes. So we'll start with Disney and then we'll go on to Universal Studios. Park themes, Disneyland, if you're going to Disneyland, Disneyland has characters and settings from the Disney movie franchise. Of course, they're the characters that everybody loves, and there's a large emphasis on Disney's animated films. Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, but Star Wars is coming soon to Disneyland. In Disneyland, many of the rides are for fans between 2 to 10 years of age. And I would say Disneyland is really popular for hardcore Disney fans and loyalists. Let's see. Transtem says, love your videos from Maui, can't wait to go back. That was a Hemi Design said that. Transtem says, Universal's has more escalators. Yes, let's talk about that. And I will talk about more escalators in one of these different ones in number 3 in the park layout. So the park theme at Universal Studios, it is inspired by popular films. Universal Studios, it's really a combination of a theme park and a working movie studio. It's got film production and the theme park all in one place. But the biggest thing and the coolest thing to do with Universal Studios, well, it's the studio tour. And that studio tour, that's really what started Universal Studios. Now it's a theme park and they just include that studio tour in the theme park's admission. Universal Studios is geared to a more mature audience than Disneyland is. Let's talk about number 2. The second area, the second difference between the two theme parks is the park's location. And so while many people lump Universal Studios and Disneyland in Los Angeles, Disneyland is actually in Anaheim, California, which is not in Los Angeles City or Los Angeles County. It is in Orange County. And Orange County is the county just south of Los Angeles. It is 34 miles southeast of LAX Airport. That's the main airport in LA. Actually, it's often closer to Orange County Airport. But it's also worth noting, if you're going to Disneyland and you're staying in Anaheim, about the only thing worth visiting in Anaheim is Disneyland. So people who go to Disneyland typically stay right around Disneyland and will stay there for 3 to 4 days for a while and enjoy the park. And of course, there's a lot of hotels in Anaheim because a ton of people go there for Disneyland. And the other thing in Anaheim just are a lot of things that cater to people who go to Disneyland. Nearby, they're like medieval times, jousting, things like that. People who are just there on vacation. The park location for Universal Studios, it is located in Hollywood. It's called Universal Studios Hollywood. It is 10 miles northeast of downtown Los Angeles on a hill overlooking LA. Actually, it's a really neat location because you can see the valley to the north, you can see Hollywood to the south. There's really great views from the theme park, from the parking structures. Universal Studios is 26 miles from LAX, and then it's 36 miles from Disneyland. So they kind of make a triangle. LAX is over by the coast, Universal Studios is up here on the top, downtown LA is here, and then Disneyland is down here in the south. All right, let me go to a few comments, and then I will go to number 3. On Facebook, Karen Spillane says, "Hi from Australia. Just visited both and loved each of them for different reasons." Well, Karen, that's awesome. Which reasons did you love both of them? Blake Crowfoot joined in from Australia as well, and he asks, how many days are recommended for Disneyland? I would say Disneyland is 2 days at the minimum. You could do 3 or 4. If I would have to recommend a number of days for Disneyland, if it's your first time, it would be 3 days at Disneyland would be my recommendation. Anna Toy asks, is the Universal VIP experience worth the money? The Universal VIP experience, it is about $400. I have personally not done it, but I guess it just depends if you want that first class treatment, go behind the scenes and things like that, and if you have that much money. Frankly, I don't to spend that much at a theme park. Over here on YouTube, take a look at the comments. Kirk Deption joined. What up, my ninja? SoCal Seth said Barry didn't go with us to Universal Studios. He did not. It was Topher. And if you haven't caught my video on 10 things to know before you go to Universal Studios, I've got a link to that in the description and in the card. You could check that one afterwards. Kirk says he's done the VIP tour. It comes with the buffet and it's so good. So Anna, there's at least one person that says do the VIP tour. Helen says, has Marvel already gotten to Disneyland? No, I don't think there's a Marvel, there's not really a Marvel land at Disneyland yet. Johnny Bangkok says, I'm definitely a Krusty the Clown kind of guy. Krusty Land is in Universal Studios. It's one of the neatest. The Simpsons land is pretty cool. So Johnny, you would like Universal Studios. Kirk says, I was at Disneyland 2 times this week and Universal 2 weeks ago, right up my alley. Well, Kirk, this is right up your alley. You were recently at both these places, so that's very cool. Vapin Jason says, I've only been to the ones in Orlando. And Vapin, you know, I have not been to Universal Studios in Florida, but the biggest difference is that the Universal Studios Hollywood, it's the only one that has the studio tour of all the Universal Studios, really, which is the reason to go there, if you ask me. The Orlando one, at least what I've read online, has a lot more rides, like roller coasters and things like that, than the one in Hollywood. And then Disney World and Disneyland, I would say, are really actually 2 different places, and I think they both have their own unique charms. SoCal Seth says, I was on the back lot tour at Universal, and Jim Carrey came out and fake killed someone in front of the Bates Motel. That's pretty funny. And that is one of the cool thing about Universal Studios is you can actually see real celebrities there because it is that working movie studio. Helen says, did you go and see the Psycho House? Yeah, the Psycho House, you see it on the, on the studio tour. They take you by, and it's pretty neat. It's got the Bates Motel right underneath and the Psycho House right on top. TP Production says, have you been to Blizzard Beach? I have not been to Blizzard Beach. That is the water park, and I haven't. But I'm curious, has anybody on here been to Blizzard Beach? I think TP Productions would like to know how it is. Kelly Jane says, 3 days at Disneyland. And how many days would you recommend for Universal Studios? First time going to both, going in July. I would say you could probably do just 1 day at Universal Studios. If you do a full day, if you wanted like easy half days, you could do 2 days. Definitely no more than 2 days. I only say maybe 2 days in July because July might be busy and the lines might be long. And like the 2-day pass at Universal Studios is really not much more than the single-day pass. I think the single-day pass is like $100 and the 2-day pass is $120, something insignificant. And if you were staying nearby Universal Studios, it might not be a big deal to say go there for a day and then catch the other things you wanted to the next day. July's going to be busy and hot, though. That is Universal Studios. That's high season. Hemi Design says, how much will it cost an average, I think, family or person to go for 2 days? Will be my first time ever with my wife. Ooh, that's a hard question, and it depends whether you include hotels and food and all those things. If you're not including hotels and you're just including, say, like park admission, figure park admission to Disneyland is about $100, $130 a day. If you're parking, it's about $15 a day. If you're eating lunch, it's probably $20 a person. If you're eating dinner, it's probably $30 a person. And then figure out whatever you spend in the parks. So couple $100 a day per person without hotels. Disneyland has a lot of Marriott, Sheraton, Hilton, and things like that are nearby in Anaheim. If you want to splurge, there's a couple of hotels on the property, but those are obviously going to be considerably more expensive. On Facebook, Mark Haley says, "Hi, Chris from Seattle. Can't wait to visit SoCal again. Love all your travel videos. Staying at Bellagio in Vegas at the end of March for 6 days. Any recommendations for good restaurants at the Bellagio? And what is your favorite buffet in Vegas?" Mark, I'm going to answer that by saying my favorite buffet in Vegas is at the Bellagio, and so that's my recommendation for the best restaurant there is the Bellagio's buffet. Also, check out there's a pastry place that's in there, Jean Philippe, one of my favorite pastry places in Vegas. On the Disneyland subject, Blake Crowfoot asks, how far is Universal from Anaheim? It is 36 miles between Universal and Anaheim, which is about an hour drive in LA if you're not driving at the worst traffic time. Okay, let's go on to number 3, and we'll talk about the park layout. Disneyland, as it's affectionately known, actually has 2 theme parks here in California. There's the traditional Disneyland theme park, and then there's Disney California Adventure. There's also Downtown Disney. Downtown Disney is a shopping area that connects the parking lots, the Disney hotels, and the 2 theme parks. Disneyland is the classic one that everybody knows. It has the classic rides like It's a Small World, Space Mountain. Disney California Adventure is kind of themed on a California fair type experience. It has a big Ferris wheel, it has an outdoor roller coaster, it has a carousel, like that kind of stuff you would have in a typical fair. Disneyland has a monorail that goes from downtown Disney into Disneyland and then back again. The one con I will say about Disneyland, the one thing I don't like about it is the parking is pretty lousy at Disneyland. The parking is pretty far away at Disneyland. There's a parking structure that you have to take a parking tram, or there's these other parking lots that you have to take a bus. You will really not be parking and just walking into the park because Disneyland has gotten so big and they've pushed their parking pretty far out. Also, when you're going to Disneyland, I've mentioned multiple days. It takes multiple days to see it all. There's so many attractions at Disneyland. 2 to 3 days definitely for a first-time visitor to Disneyland. Universal Studios, the park layout at Universal Studios is pretty weird, actually. Universal Studios is a split layout park, so it's got what they call the upper lot, and then it's called the lower lot. And there's an escalator that takes you from the upper lot, which is on top of this hill that I talked about, and then to get to the bottom of the hill, the lower lot, takes 6.5 minutes on a series of about 4 different escalators. It's really sort of a weird thing to get down to that lot. But Universal Studios is also pretty small. So if you compare the two, Disneyland, between the 2 theme parks, has 100 attractions. Universal Studios has 15 attractions. So that gives you an idea of the size and scope of Universal Studios. It also has a shopping mall right outside the theme park called Universal City Walk. That was actually the predecessor to Downtown Disney. I think Disneyland saw it and said, hey, we could do that, and maybe we could do it better. The nice thing about Universal Studios is the parking is close by. They built a bunch of parking structures that you just park in and you can just walk right into the park, though they have tiered parking prices. Their cheapest parking is $25. Their front of the gate parking is $50, which can get pretty expensive. Some of the transportation can be more convenient if you're getting there by public transit. You can take the Los Angeles subway to Universal Studios. I think if you're going to Universal Studios in any other time than one of the busiest days, you can see Universal Studios all in one day, particularly if you were to get there at a park opening and stay there at park closing. All right, I'm going to drink some iced tea from In-N-Out, and then I'll go with some comments. And I'm going to pick up my pillow there so you can see that better. All right, comments. Dieter Hobson says, we're visiting LA in May. Your videos have been great for our trip. Keep up the good work. Dieter, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your trip to LA. Sapling Nappies asks, do you have any suggestions getting 4 kids from LAX to the closest department store to pick up car seats? Wow. I don't. If you don't have car seats, but there's probably like a Target or Walmart, or I mean, I feel like there should be some close stores to pick up car seats by LAX, but I'm not sure what you mean by the best way to get them there, like to put them on your back or on a bicycle. I'll have to noodle that one. TV Production says they've been to Blizzard Beach, but not for a while. Also, the waves are huge. SoCal Sets asks, did you know that the mechanical shark used in Jaws was named Bruce after Spielberg's lawyer? You know, I think I did know that because I think they mentioned that on the studio tour, though I didn't remember that until you just mentioned it, which is cool. And that is a cool part about Universal Studios is you get to see the shark from Jaws. And an interesting story about the shark from Jaws. Everybody's seen that famous shark. The first time they used it in the ocean, and actually the salt water corroded it, and then it sunk, and they couldn't use the shark anymore. So I would have loved to have been Spielberg being like, the only thing I need for this movie is a shark, and now it's sunk, and we have no movie. Because they only ever tested it in fresh water, and they never tested it in salt water, and then Spielberg wanted it to be more authentic, and so they went and did the actual shooting in the open ocean. Gurav says, do you recommend Universal Studios for 3-year-old, or I should skip going? Gurav, I think most of the attractions at Universal Studios are too thrilling for a 3-year-old. I think Disneyland would be a lot better for a 3-year-old than Universal Studios would. TV Production says, good night from Regina, Saskatchewan. I will watch the archive because it's 10:11. TV Productions, good night, and enjoy Hawaii in March. Kirk says, just got back from Disneyland and used the Max Pass. It costs an additional $10 per person per day, but you can schedule your fast passes on the phone app, and all attraction photos are free. That's a good tip if you are going to Disneyland. Use that. I'll talk a little bit about that when I get to the sort of fast pass or crowd skipping section. Kirk says, and we're going with Party of 7, and we're breezing through the lines with Max Pass. That's interesting. Tanner Wilson says, if you ever come to Texas for theme parks, check out Six Flags Over Texas in Arlington, Texas, between Dallas and Fort Worth, and Schitterbahn in New Braunfels. Both are amazing. I do like the Six Flags theme parks. There's a Six Flags Magic Mountain here in Los Angeles, which has some pretty impressive roller coasters, I must say. And Gurda says, love your videos, particularly Vegas ones are very helpful. The Gurdas, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm glad you found those useful. And Jefferson says, great videos. And on Facebook, last comment, and then I'm going to go to the next number. Blake Crowfoot says, what are the best places to eat in Disneyland? 3 things that I say are the best place to eat in Disneyland. One is the Main Street corn dog cart. They make some really delicious corn dogs. Second is, boy, it's just right next to the Main Street corn dog cart. There's a place that sells fried chicken in Disneyland, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's been there like almost since the park opening. Pretty delicious fried chicken, mashed potatoes, gravy, green beans, a pretty good meal, biscuits, and real honey, not that imitation stuff. And then there's a place over by where they do Fantasmic. Kirk says the Plaza Inn. Yes, thank you. The Plaza Inn is the place with the fried chicken. It's really good. And there's often long lines there right when the Plaza Inn opens. Also in like New Orleans, by the river, by the Pirates of the Caribbean, there's a little soup place that sells these really good bowls of gumbo. And then if you want like the coolest experience at Disneyland, it would be to eat at the Blue Bayou. The Blue Bayou is the restaurant inside Pirates of the Caribbean. It is the coolest place to eat. When we go to Disneyland, we go there almost every year for my birthday, because, yes, I'm that much of a big nerd who goes and celebrates my birthday at Disneyland. But when we go to Disneyland for my birthday, we always try to get a reservation at Blue Bayou. Make a reservation, make it like 2 or 3 months ahead of time when they first open reservations, because they go quick, and then you can sit there and eat like prime rib and watch the boats inside the ride go by. Super cool. All right. And Jose says he just joined. Shout out to Topher. Really digging the cut of his jib. Jose, that's awesome. And Topher is super glad you joined. He says hello back. All right. So number 4, let's talk about crowds. We'll start with Disneyland. Disneyland, usually it's packed all the time. Like winter, summer, weekdays, weekends. There's this urban legend that says Go to Disneyland on Super Bowl Sunday. And let me tell you, we were at Disneyland on Super Bowl Sunday. It is really not very dead. I think the word has got out, and then everybody goes there on Super Bowl Sunday because, what are you going to do on Super Bowl Sunday if you don't watch Super Bowl? Go to Disneyland, of course. Disneyland's also kind of annoying because it's so busy, the parking can take forever. Sometimes we've been to Disneyland and spent over an hour just in line to park. Like, that's not even getting into the theme park. That's like exiting off the freeway, going through the parking garage, paying for parking, parking for parking. The security lines can be long. The park entry lines can be long. The ride lines can be long. The lines can be between 60 and 90 minutes, so Disneyland is pretty crowded. Definitely use a crowd tracker site if you're going to Disneyland to find some of the days that are less crowded than others. On Universal Studios, related to crowds, Universal Studios Hollywood has way less crowds than Disneyland. Though about the only people that can be rough at Universal Studios is summer, but if you're there any other time than summer, it is not that busy. And also if you're going to Universal Studios, like the park often closes a lot earlier than Disneyland. Disneyland typically closes around midnight or 1 a.m. on busy days. Universal Studios closes at 9 p.m., like really what I'd consider to be early for a theme park. And by like 8 p.m. on a 9 p.m. closing day, the park pretty much clears out. When we were there, the ride line times at 8 p.m. on a 3-day weekend, which happened to be like President's Day and Lunar New Year and Valentine's Day weekend, like lines for some of the biggest rides at closing time were only like 10 or 15 minutes long. So we went on like 3 of the rides in the last hour of the park entry. And so because there's less people, Universal Studios is makes it so that you can get through and see more of the park quickly. Also, the parking is easy to get in, and then there's short lines for park entry just due to less people being there. SoCal Seth says Disney is always crowded. Might as well stay at one of the hotels and walk in. Yes, I would actually definitely recommend that. If you are traveling to come to Disneyland, stay at one of the hotels within walking distance of the park. You will thank me later because you won't be wasting an hour of your day trying to get into the parking structure. Actually, you'll thank SoCal Seth since he's the one who brought that up. Kirk says, tell them about traffic. If you intend to get there before the park opens, you have to get on the freeway before 6 a.m. Serious. Yeah, I mean, it certainly depends where you're coming from in LA, but LA traffic is, it's awful. In a word, it's awful. The traffic is some of the worst in the world in LA. The freeway going through downtown LA barely moves a lot of the time. And so, yes, make sure you're using Google Maps and then selecting like arrive by a certain time or depart at a certain time. You're not looking how long the drive takes at 3 p.m. You're looking how long the drive takes in the morning because the morning traffic a lot different than the 3 p.m. traffic. And Kirk says, the 5 freeway will destroy people's mental state before you even get to the park. It is true. The freeways in LA are kind of soul crushers. Hemi Design says it's hard to choose, Disney or Universal. It is hard to choose. And the good news is we've got like 6 more areas to compare before we have to choose. Blake on Facebook says, is November a busy time for Disneyland? Yes, but probably the busiest times for Disneyland are like in December, like in that time frame. There's a certain time of year where Disneyland basically puts on all the Christmas decorations. And so a good time in the fall to go to Disneyland is right after kids go back to school. And so there's like certain time in October. It gets busy right around Halloween. And then there is a little bit of a lull before Thanksgiving. So if you go the weeks right before they've put up the Christmas decorations, you'll find that to be a fairly unbusy week or two right before it gets mobbed again for all the Christmas stuff. Gurav says, please can you help? What is the nearest entry point for Garden by the Bay? Which MRT or bus stop should be used? Oh, wow, Gurav. That is hard for me to say off the top of my head. I'd have to get back to you. If you send me a message on Facebook or leave it as a comment, maybe on my Gardens by the Bay video, I'll remember to answer there because I'll get the notification for it and I can tell you exactly which subway to exit at. All right, let's go to number 5. Skip the line. So both Universal Studios Hollywood and Disneyland have different ways of skipping the line. At Disneyland, they call it a Fast Pass. And the way the Fast Pass works at Disneyland is when you go into the theme park, your theme park admission ticket will have a barcode on it, and then you can go up to the rides, you put your admission ticket into this little Fast Pass machine, and it'll dispense a well, it used to dispense a voucher, but we're going to call it this. It dispenses a little piece of paper that says your time to come back to this ride is between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. They give you a 1-hour window to come back to the ride, and then they'll give you a time that you can collect your next Fast Pass. And that's entirely free. It's included with your park admission. When we go to Disneyland, we pretty much only go on the rides that we get Fast Passes for. We come in the park, we go get a Fast Pass, and then maybe we go do something else. If we're there at park opening, we may go get a Fast Pass for one ride, then find a ride that's not very busy, like Pirates of the Caribbean, go ride that, and then go on. OC Girl points out and says they don't give you the small piece of paper anymore. Well, so the small piece of paper used to be the ticket that was your Fast Pass ticket. Now it's a Fast Pass reminder, and they're even phasing that out to just do your Fast Passes in the app. So I'm trying to look for the Disneyland app that's on my phone, because you know I go there so much when I have the app, and they have the Disneyland app, and then if you have Fast Passes, when you load up the app, it'll tell you actually all the Fast Passes that you have, it'll tell you the dinner reservations that you have. It's a pretty neat app, I will say. And so they have this thing now that they call Max Pass, and Max Pass allows you to pay $10 extra per day, and the $10 extra per day allows you to basically request your Fast Passes from the app, so you don't actually have to go to the rides to get the Fast Pass. That is a total time saver, so it's worth your while if you're going to be in the park early. If you're getting in the park like at 6 p.m., it is not worth paying the $10 for the Max Pass, because all the Fast Passes will be gone. The Fast Passes are really only useful if you get in the park at park opening. And so the best strategy at Disneyland for Fast Pass, just get as many Fast Passes as you can, as early as you can in the park. Don't wait, and like as soon as you get your opportunity to get the next Fast Pass, get it. So Kirk says it will also tell you the wait times on the app. That's pretty nice, though I found the wait times to be sort of hokey, because it's like there's certain rides that like anytime you see a wait time that's like below 30 minutes, as soon as you get to the ride, it's like 45 minutes. I think there's this thing where when they advertise it's a short wait, then everybody goes like, oh, the wait's pretty short, let me go over there, and then the wait gets long, so it's disappointing. But at least that way you'll know roughly to be like, oh, the wait at Space Mountain is 90 minutes. I'm not even going to go because that's way too long. SoCal Seth says, I think they're going to convert to magic bands like at Disney World. Yeah, in Disney World, they have these wristbands that you wear that are RFID wristbands, and that's essentially the equivalent of your pass. Okay, so Universal Studios, let's talk about how you skip the line at Universal Studios. There, it's basically pay to skip the line. They have a different ticket tier called Express Pass, and if you have an Express Pass, it allows you to skip the line once per each ride. And so this is really good if you have limited time, because you don't have to like get a Fast Pass and then wait for the time for the next one, or wait for the time to get on the ride. You get this little emblem that you wear that says Express Pass. The rides have a separate Express Pass line, and then you just go through that line, which is super short. It costs a fairly decent amount of money. So for example, a summertime ticket into Universal Studios, the regular admission is about $120. The Express Pass for Universal Studios in the summer is $249. So that is almost twice as much for the line skipping privileges. But if you got the money and you don't want to wait, maybe you just want to visit the park for like a half day, you can do that at Universal Studios if you've got the cash to pay for it. Irene Volchnek from New Zealand says, we went during December, never again, so many people, we waited up to 2 hours to go on rides. Yeah, Irene, you're right, Disneyland can be really busy in December. The tip that I give if you are visiting Disneyland in December or some of the busy months is to basically get to the park at park opening. So if the park opens at like 8 a.m., get there at 8 a.m. Go pick up a fast pass, go ride a ride, pick up a fast pass, go ride a ride, because most of the locals that have like annual passes and things like that, they often don't get there till about noon or lunchtime, and that's when the park just gets like super crowded, and then you've ridden all the rides, and so you can like leave right after that. So that's my tip if you are going during a busy time. Also check out the crowd tracker websites, and if you see a day where it's like the busy is like 10 out of 10, then yeah, just don't even bother to go, because some of those days you can't even like move through the theme park. Gurav says, please guide, do you recommend, this is a Singapore question, do you recommend the 2-day pass including 1 day Sentosa and 1 day Universal Studios, or just 5 playtime pass or 3 playtime pass with 3-year-old child? Gurav, I'm not, so this is to go into Universal Studios. I'm not really sure what the playtime passes are, so you'll have to help me on that. SoCal Seth says, at least Disneyland has a Slater's 50/50 buy it, which is a pretty good burger place. Gurav also asked, which is better, the Singapore Tourist Pass or the Easy Link card? I have an Easy Link card. The Singapore MRT is pretty cheap, so I just get the Singapore Easy Pass and pay for the rides because it's pretty inexpensive. Kirk says, you can get Magic Mornings if you stay on the Disneyland premises. So if you're staying at a Disneyland hotel, then you get an hour early admission into one or the other park. Joe S. says, how accurate are the crowd tracker websites? They are quite accurate, I have found, Joe. The days when it says it's dead, they're generally dead. And the days that they're busy, they say they're busy. The only things that the crowd tracker sites don't really take into account are like the weather. Like if the weather is going to be lousy or rain or things like that, then that's the day to go to Disneyland. Our favorite days to go to the Disneyland, rainy days. Nobody's there on rainy days. Busiest days sometimes that the crowd tracker sites wouldn't predict too well are like the day after a rainy day. Because if it was rainy, then everybody just put off going that day to go the next day. Irene says, when is the best month to visit the parks? Irene, the 2 best months to visit Disneyland or Universal Studios, January and February. And by January, I mean like January 15th until the end of February. It is after the Christmas holidays, the kids have gone back to school, and it's before spring break. So the least busy times, middle January to end of February. Okay, let's go on to number 6, and we'll talk about kids. I had some questions about kids earlier, so we're going to talk about kids at the parks. Disneyland is more geared towards younger kids. There are a lot more strollers at Disneyland. There are a lot of strollers at Disneyland. A lot of stroller parking. You'll walk through the park, and sometimes you'll be tripping over strollers. There are so many strollers. An interesting thing about Disneyland is the height limit on many of the thrill rides at Disneyland are 44 inches, which is different than a Universal Studios. The thrill ride, the height limit is 40 inches. So if you've got sort of mid-age kids, they may like Universal Studios better because they may be able to go on more rides if they're in that 40-inch but not quite 44-inch area. Also, both Disney and Universal have this notion of child switch. So if you're a couple parents that have come to one of the theme parks and you've got kids with you, but the kids can't go on the rides, but you want to go on the rides, well, the way it works at Disneyland is you would get in the line with you and your adult companion and your kids. You'd get to the front of the line, and one person would ride the ride, and then the kids and the other adult would get a fast pass. Well, the adult would get a fast pass to go on the ride after their partner gets off. They can then watch the kids. At Universal Studios, they have these things called child switch rooms, which are right at the front of the ride. So the 2 adults would go up to the front, one adult would ride, the adult with the kids would go into the child switch room, and when the adult riding the ride gets off, then they would just switch with the adult who would then go on the ride. So it's a lot quicker to go on the rides at Universal Studios if you're using the child switch things. Yeah, and OC Girl points out that Topher, he's too small. He couldn't go on any of the thrill rides because he is small. But I will say that I think Disneyland is better for younger kids. The rides are friendlier, they're funner, they're more kid-friendly. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, like the whole Fantasyland part of Disneyland is just amazing. And Disneyland is just The theme park is, in my opinion, like magical. It's just super well done. Your kids will enjoy walking around it, seeing the things. It's just a place of awe. Universal Studios, when it comes to the actual theme park, is really under-themed, if you ask me, because it's like a studio. It looks like a movie studio, and so the park itself is not really very awe-inspiring at all. On Facebook, Blake Crowford says, do rides close down if it rains or there's bad weather? Blake, the rides at Disneyland pretty much don't close down. They're pretty much run all the time. Maybe like the roller coasters might, but generally most of the rides keep running. Because a lot of the rides are inside too, so it's not a big deal. Joshua Pickles says, I got a refund once at Disney Paris. Joshua Pickles, how'd you get a refund at Disney Paris? What happened? Did the park close? Did you get stuck on something? Irene says, oh no, we're visiting again in April. We love the USA. Can you give us advice on visiting Six Flags, please? Advice. Six Flags has a lot of roller coasters. Six Flags is kind of one of the other big theme parks in Los Angeles. It's more in the northwest of Los Angeles. Probably the same thing goes for Six Flags. Get there early in the morning. You'll find the ride lines to be shortest early in the morning. It's been a while since I've been to Six Flags, but I definitely would recommend riding, I think it's Colossus. It's like the big wooden roller coaster. Super huge wooden roller coaster. Certainly one of my favorites that's there. And then in April, yeah, if you're going to Disneyland again, then, just go in the mornings. Make it like half days that you go there or something like that, and then it won't be too bad. Jose says, I would like that shirt you are wearing in 3XLT. Is there a method out there to acquire it? Jose, there's not a method to acquire this specific shirt. I do have some Yellow Productions branded shirts that have a little different. They don't have the Y up here. They have it down here. If you take a look at probably some of my other videos, not this one, but almost any of my other recent videos, maybe they don't have a link to Yellow Productions merchandise. Tell you what, I'll post a link on Facebook after this. If you follow my Facebook page, I'll post a link to where I've ordered the other t-shirts that I have. I'd run away over to the closet over there to show it to you, but these... my brother-in-law had printed at like a local print shop, and so I just got an order of 10 for them. The other shirts I've been ordering, the place like prints them to order, so there is a link if you want to order one. That'd be super cool. I'd love to see some pictures of you someplace in these Yellow Productions shirts. Jason says, is Universal as expensive as Disneyland? Sorry if the question was already asked. They're just about as expensive. The park admission is pretty similar for one-day admission. Universal Studios is cheaper if you are getting like an annual pass. Annual passes to Universal Studios like $180. The annual passes to Disneyland are significantly more expensive. And of course we get annual passes because we're just suckers. It seems like Disneyland, doesn't matter how expensive they make the annual passes, we just give them more money because we love Disneyland so much. Blake Crowfoot says, I heard there's a bus that goes to Disneyland from the local hotels. Is it true? Yes, Blake, there are shuttle buses that go from the local hotels in Anaheim to Disneyland. Kirk says, I'm an annual pass holder to Six Flags. It's not very amazing, but it's open 365 days a year this year. That's cool. SoCal Seth says, I miss living by all these parks and needs a V-neck. I think they have V-necks. If not, I'll make sure that V-necks are added to the yellow design. And OC Girl wanted to respond to Joe S. and say, we were at Disneyland the last Super Bowl Sunday. It wasn't super busy, but still a decent amount of people. All right, number 7. Let's talk about characters between the theme parks. So both Disneyland and Universal Studios have character meet and greet where you or your kids can go take pictures with the characters. At Disneyland, there'll be the classic characters that we all love and know, Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Daffy, those sorts of things. But at Disneyland, there's pretty long lines for the character meet and greet. But when you do get up to the front, if it's you or your kiddo, then they'll be like with that character for like 2 minutes and feel like royalty. The characters at Disneyland also act pretty classy and classic. They hug the kids, they hug you, they're just super friendly characters. At Universal Studios, the characters are less kid-friendly. When we were there, one of the characters that was out on the main street of Universal Studios was Beetlejuice. for those of you who know the movie Beetlejuice, he was definitely one of those cruder characters. And they'll stand on the side and like interact with you as you're walking by. Yes, Topher got to take a picture with Po, which is the panda from Kung Fu Panda. Some of the other characters at Universal Studios, Minions, Transformers, Simpsons, Dora the Explorer, SpongeBob, so more like a bigger genre of characters. At Universal Studios, there's shorter lines for the characters, but the characters are well less known, and so if you have little kids, they may not know a lot of those characters. One of the most popular things, though, at Universal Studios is definitely the Harry Potter land, and I think that's one of the ones that the kids go wild for, at least sort of the middle-aged kids. Kirk says, I always take a picture with Beetlejuice and Lucy at Universal. Kirk, that's pretty awesome. And I thought Beetlejuice was pretty funny when he was there. SoCal says Po Shizzle. And Sapling says, has there been any news on the soft opening of Pixar Pier? We're at Disney 10 to 13 of April from Australia. Sapling, I think you're almost a perfect time for the soft opening of Pixar Pier. I believe, don't quote me on this, but you might want to look it up, that they're bringing the Paint the Night Parade to California Adventure, and I think the first night of that parade is April 13th. I've actually got it marked on my calendar because I was like, I want to go. Yes, April 13th, Paint the Night Parade opening at Disneyland California Adventure. So I would suggest that you try to see that because that'll be the first time that really cool parade will be in that park instead of the Disneyland park. Hemi Design also says that Universal Studios has the Transformers. How fun. I was the official photographer from Transformers 3 and 4 hired by Michael Bay. Good times. Hemi Design, that's pretty cool. Cool pictures. Jose says, what is your favorite Disney movie? Ooh, there are so many Disney movies. I mean, I guess Star Wars is a Disney movie now. I like certainly all of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I like Frozen, even though it's a kid's movie. I mean, I don't know that I've seen a Disney movie that I don't like, you know? Disney, just such great characters. Hey bro, 69 says, hi Chris, we'll be in Anaheim from New Zealand in April. Does Universal Studios go till midnight like Disneyland? Hey bro, Universal Studios often closes around 9 p.m. You'll have to check the park times, but the park closes earlier because the primary thing at Universal Studios is the studio tour, and they don't run that too late into the night, so I think it gets too cold and too dark to see a lot of those things. Landscaper Ben's joined from Australia. Howdy Ben, thanks for joining. Kirk says, who's your favorite Disney princess? I'm just going to cop out, and I'm going to say, Anna or Elsa from Frozen. We really like the Frozen show at Disney California Adventure. There's a Frozen stage show. It used to be Aladdin, which was really awesome. We loved it. We loved the genie there. Now it's Frozen. If you go to Disneyland, you need to see the Frozen show. If you go to Disneyland, you need to see the Frozen show. If you go to Disneyland, you really need to see the Frozen show. Did I say that enough times? The Frozen show is impressive. And it's one of those where if you were seeing it on stage, like in actual Hollywood or New York, you'd probably pay $100 just for the show ticket to see that level of a stage theatrical show. And it's included in your park admission. So definitely check out the Frozen show if you go. All right, number 8. The 8th difference between Disneyland and Universal Studios are the costumes. And I don't mean the costumes of the characters who work there. I mean the costumes of the guests who come to the park. And so at Disneyland, the classic costume for people to wear are Disney Mickey ears. Everybody's got their Mickey ears. There's also a whole set of Disney hats. And another popular trend at Disneyland is for people to come in like matching shirts. Typically, families or groups will often have like custom shirts made that'll say something like the Smith Family Vacation 2018, and then they're all wearing like matching red shirts together. It's pretty cool. Actually, kind of an odd thing about Disneyland, though, is they don't allow you to come in actual costume. That's one thing Disneyland doesn't allow. They don't want, I guess, guests to be confused with the actual people in the theme park that are dressed up in costume as the actual characters, so you can't be too close to the actual characters unless you go to Disneyland during Halloween, And in that case, you can dress up on certain days when they allow that. But I think it's just the kids. Also, around Halloween time, there will be a lot of people in Nightmare Before Christmas type costumes, like Jack Skellington and things like that, because the Haunted Mansion in California Adventure gets themed after the Nightmare Before Christmas. Kirk says they have a Black Panther meet and greet right now. That's cool. And to advise the listeners that alcohol is available. Alcohol is available at Universal and a California Adventure, but not at Disneyland. That is a good tip. Disneyland tries to be family and kid friendly, so you can't carry alcohol around at Disneyland. They don't sell it in the park. Disney California Adventure, they do sell it, and most people just drink it where it's sold. At Universal Studios, it's pretty common to see people getting a beer, this and that, and walking around the park with it. So if you are inclined to walk with your beer, then you may very well like Universal Studios Hollywood better. And a toy says Disneyland doesn't allow selfie sticks. Same for Universal. And I would imagine it's the same for Universal. I didn't see any signs about it, but I would imagine it's pretty much the same. That's one of the big things they look for in their security check, just because people hold them on the rides and that causes injury. Interesting, they don't allow selfie sticks, but they do allow tripods. You can bring a tripod in, because it's not the issue of just holding it up if you're standing around. The issue is people hold those things up on rides. Blake Crowfoot says, thanks for answering all my questions. It's my first time traveling to the U.S. Are there people like scammers to avoid in Disneyland or Universal? Blake, I think in the theme park, you don't too much have to worry about scammers. The biggest thing I've heard that's kind of like a crime thing is that people who bring strollers into the theme parks will often leave like valuable stuff in the strollers, like cameras or things like that, and people often steal things off strollers. They've also been known to steal strollers entirely. There's like a whole Disneyland stroller theft ring, so be careful about what you are leaving on your baby or child strollers if you have one. And Blake says Leia is his favorite princess. Yeah, Star Wars, Disney property, Leia's a good princess. All right. Landscaper Man asks, when is In-N-Out opening a theme park for you, Chris, so you can hug a guy dressed as a burger or fries? That would be pretty nice, because I'm drinking my iced tea from In-N-Out Burger today. SoCal Seth says, liquor does make Disney better. I'll have to take your word for it, because I've never been sloppy drunk at Disneyland. And that you can also walk with your beer and beverages in Vegas. That is very true. Hemi Design says, can I bring a professional camera inside both parks? I believe you can. We bring fairly decent cameras into the parks. We've never been told we couldn't have them. Johnny says, what about gimbals? You mean like a DJI, Osmo, things like that? Yeah, I think those are fine. I think just selfie sticks that extend and get really tall, they don't like. Kirk says, March 2nd through April 12th is the Food and Wine Festival. Can't wait. So for those who don't know, the Food and Wine Festival, that's a time at Disney California Adventure where they have different wines. They have more gourmet food. So that's a cool time to check out California Adventure. Blake asks, do you plan on visiting Sydney anytime soon? Blake, not anytime soon. I don't have any current plans to go there. But that doesn't mean that some random plans that I don't have won't take me there in the future. I would like to visit Sydney. I didn't get to do it on my last trip to Australia, though. Kirk says, I've had a friend get stopped for bringing his professional camera with tripod. They harassed it, then let him through. Interesting. Was it like a huge tripod? Because I've seen people in the park with small tripods before, certainly. Jose says, I don't have a favorite color, but I do have a favorite combo of colors, which is yellow and black. What is your favorite color or colors? Jose, my favorite color is definitely yellow. Maybe yellow and black. I like red quite a bit too. Yellow, black, white. Those are some favorite colors. All right, let's go on to number 9. Number 9 is such a good number. Just say number 9 a few times. Number 9. All right, let's talk about attractions and rides. What's the difference between attractions and rides between Disneyland and Universal Studios? At Disneyland, the rides have amazing theming on the rides. And Disneyland rides, you and I will want to ride again and again. I have been on Space Mountain, I don't know, 50 times, and I love to ride it every time I go. I love Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. I love the Pirates of the Caribbean. I love It's a Small World. At Disney California Adventure, I love the roller coaster that's over there. I love the it's the new Cars Land ride. I always forget what the name of it is. There's a Toy Story Midway Mania ride where you put these 3D goggles on and you shoot. That one's pretty cool too. Disney also has really cool lands. Like the park just is very immersive. Like when you go into this new Cars Land, Disneyland spent like $1 billion on Cars Land. I mean, something exorbitant, and it really feels like you are in like the Grand Canyon. I mean, it looks real. Like it looks like this real Arizona kind of mountainscape. Yeah, Anna says it's called Racers. It's like something Racers. Yeah, it's one of the busiest rides at California Adventure. So if you're gonna go in there, that's the one you want to get the fast pass first. Also, the lines at Disneyland, they're really well themed. You don't feel like you're just standing in a bunch of corrals or something like that. Kirk says it's called Radiator Springs Racers. Very good, Kirk. Thank you very much. Kirk says, what's your favorite attraction at Disneyland? Attraction versus ride, maybe, is different. I would say the ride we probably go on the most is Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, because the lines aren't super busy. I probably like Space Mountain or Pirates of the Caribbean are my two favorites at Disneyland. I really do like the Phantasmic Show, which is pretty cool. I like the Tiki Room as well. The Tiki Room is pretty awesome. If you've not been to the Tiki Room, you're really missing out. It's one of Walt Disney's original attractions. It's super cheesy, but there's all these animatronic birds. It's really neat, though. SoCal Seth says about that Cars Land, they took inspiration from the old Route 66. Yeah, it is pretty neat. Irene says, thank you for all the information. So helpful, making it easy to travel. Irene, my pleasure. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for asking the questions. Blake says, you may have already answered this, but are there tickets you can buy to skip the lines? If so, what is the cost? At Disneyland, there's just the Fast Pass. They're free. You can pay $10 extra and add the Max Pass, which allows you to get the Fast Passes on the app, so you don't actually have to go to them. At Universal Studios, you can pay to skip the line. Those are somewhere in the neighborhood of $180 to $250 a person, so they're more expensive there. SoCal says the churro cart is his favorite ride. That's pretty funny. SoCal says, I don't know that I've had the churros inside Disneyland. Where's the churro cart that you like? Is it inside Disneyland or the one out in downtown Disney? Kirk says, nothing about where you eat at the park. Have you been to Club 33? I have not been to Club 33. But I think probably the place I eat the most is the Plaza Inn for the fried chicken. It's pretty good. Also, one of my favorite restaurants of all time anywhere is in downtown Disney. It's the Earl of Sandwich. If there's one thing you need to eat when you go to Disneyland, it is the Earl of Sandwich in downtown Disney. I think they have some of the world's best hot sandwiches. I've actually got a video on the Earl of Sandwich. If you went to the Yellow Productions channel, typed in Earl of Sandwich, you would find that video. Okay, Universal Studios. Let's talk about the rides at Universal Studios. I don't really like the rides at Universal Studios. Universal Studios rides are more thrilling, but there are lots of motion projection rides, the kind of rides where you're in a seat and the seat moves and there's a screen and it projects some things to try to make you feel like you're going further than you are. The Simpsons ride is one that, I really felt like I was going to barf after I rode that ride. And, those are the kind of rides where you'll ride once and you're good and never again. Many of the rides at Universal, I say, feel like they're not done. We rode the Mummy. The Mummy's like a roller coaster at Universal Studios, and it felt like a half-done Indiana Jones or a half-done Space Mountain. It was just not very polished, and we ended up with the ride, and we're like, was it it? Was the ride over? I mean, when was the ride? When was the ride going to start? Because they just don't feel quite as complete or like they've had as much work and love and care put together on the ride at Universal Studios as they have at Disneyland. Though Universal Studios Hollywood recently built the wizarding world of Harry Potter, I think that is one of the reasons to go to Universal Studios. That is definitely the best land at Universal Studios is the Harry Potter land, and the best ride at Universal Studios, and the reason to go, is the studio tour. It's a ride where, you wait 45 minutes to go on the ride, but then the ride is like an hour or something like that. I mean, it is a pretty long studio tour, and so that is totally worth the wait time to go on that, as opposed to like the teacups at Disneyland, which you wait 30 minutes and go on a ride for a minute. SoCal Seth answered my churro question and says, any churro will do. Did you get the Krusty Burger or Giant Pink Donut at Universal's? We did not get either of those. We got the prime rib in the Harry Potter land. They're a pretty cool restaurant in the Harry Potter land at Universal Studios. It's themed like an old British tavern, like in a castle or something like that. And the prime rib was actually one of the best things we've had inside a theme park as part of food. It was like $20. But OC Girl does say for donuts, we did get the voodoo donuts. So if you follow me on Facebook, you might have seen the picture that we posted of Topher that maybe I can pull up on my phone right here. But we took a picture of Topher with the voodoo donut, and of course it's one of those where, like, when I want to show you the picture, I can't find it. Here's the picture, right? This was the picture of Topher and the voodoo donut. They specialize in this donut that's a little chocolate donut. I think it had jelly inside. He's got a little pretzel that's stabbing him. Anyway, pretty scary. Hemi Design says, once you're inside the park, can you leave and come back again same day? Yes, Hemi Design, you sure can. They sell two types of tickets at Disneyland. No, I've got too many. They sell two types of tickets at Disneyland, like a single park admission or a park hopper admission. If you have the park hopper admission, you can go between parks as much as you want. If you have the single park admission ticket, you get your hand stamped when you leave one park, and then you can go back in that park same day. No problem, as much as you want. Kirk says, have you been to the Hawaiian-themed restaurant on the Disneyland Hotel premise, Trader Sam's? They have people singing with ukuleles and good quick serve food. Good quick serve food, Kirk. We've never been there. I just saw one of my friends on Facebook post that they were there, and so actually I want to check that out next time we go. It's amazing that the first time I heard about it just a couple days ago, and now you bring it up too. I feel like I don't know Disneyland is so big and there's so much stuff that even hardcore Disney people don't know everything that's at the park. Kirk says they've been doing themed churros lately, rose gold churros currently, and a lightsaber color churros previously. That's pretty cool. And Kirk asks, have you seen the Disney jail before? Kirk, where is the Disney jail? No, I don't think I have. Blake Crowfoot says, watching these videos make the wait to go even harder than it already is. They're so informative. Well, Blake, that's awesome. Here, you get a thumbs up for that. And Irene, you do too. All right. SoCal Seth says it's very pricey, but if you're going to get prime rib, go to Laurie's in Beverly Hills. Great date spot. You're welcome. Yes, Laurie's has really good prime rib. Laurie's that makes the seasoning salt. They've got a couple restaurants in LA. If you want it slightly cheaper in LA Live, they've got a Laurie's Carvery. They've got one in South Coast Plaza too that's fast food prime rib that's pretty good. And then down in Newport Beach in Orange County, if you're at Disneyland, they've got a restaurant called Five Crowns, which is also owned by Laurie's. And it's a full-on British-themed restaurant where people wear, like, British attire. It's pretty good prime rib. Have you been on the Walk with Wait tour? I assume that's one of those guided tours at Disneyland. We've not done any of the guided tours at Disneyland, primarily because we're cheap. All right, let's go on to number 10. This is our last one. Shows. Let's talk about shows. So at Disneyland, they've got tons of shows. They've got parades that are amazing parades. Disneyland, I think, became famous with the electrical parade, which was this parade of like light up things at night. But they have other cool parades. What was the one I called? There was that other parade that I mentioned before, I can't remember the name of. The Paint the Night parade. They've got the Frozen show. They've got fireworks almost every night. They've got the Fantasmic show, which is done on the lake inside Disneyland. Over California Adventure, they've got the World of Color, which is done on the lake inside Disney California Adventure. It's often shown twice per night on the busy nights. The shows at Disneyland are super amazing. Universal Studios has 3 shows. Waterworld, Animal Actors, and the Special Effects Show. And if you want to know more about each one of those, you could watch the 10 Things to Know Before Going to Universal Studios video that I did. I show like a little clip from each one of those shows, but the shows at Universal Studios are definitely not as good as the shows at Disneyland. The shows at Disneyland, way polished, worth the wait, super awesome. But at Disneyland, people wait a long time. Like, people who want to get like good seats for the parades, they will wait like an hour or 2 or 3 to get the good seats for that. Frozen is pretty good. You maybe only have to get there like 30 or 45 minutes before. Universal Studios, you can get to a lot of those shows like 10 minutes before and still get a seat because they're just not as good and the park is not as busy. All right, so I'm going to go to the conclusion. I'll conclude. I'll read the final comments, then we're going to wrap up because we're getting at just about an hour. So in conclusion, which theme park is better? Well, let me go over 5 quick areas, and then I'll give you my conclusion. But if you've been watching this far, you could probably guess which theme park I like better. So price, it's about the same for one-day tickets at both theme parks. Annual passes at Universal Studios are cheaper. Age, Disneyland better for ages 2 to 10. Universal Studios better for the older kids. Location, Universal wins out on this one. Universal Studios is better if you're staying in LA. More people stay in LA, and so that's just a closer theme park for where a lot of the people stay in LA. Time, Universal Studios can be done in one day. It's only got 15 attractions. Disneyland takes 2 to 3 days because it has over 100 attractions. Theming, Disneyland is for Disney lovers, super immersive, super well done. Universal is for movie lovers and Harry Potter fans. I personally like Disneyland best. Disneyland has an amazing experience and atmosphere. I can walk around Disneyland all day. I don't even have to go on any rides or see any shows, and I can just enjoy myself. It's that neat of a park, that immersive, and that cool. And I can have a good time without going even on a single ride. Music, entertainment, exhibits, everything like that. And my biggest tip, if you're going to Disneyland, go early in the day and make sure to use fast passes. My next live stream, it's going to be in about 3 weeks. I'm going on travel for a while. So Monday, March 19th, 2018, 8 p.m. LA time. Check it out. I may do something in between if hotel Wi-Fi allows it, but that one will be the next scheduled one if you want to put one on your calendar. Anna Toy says, your videos are great, especially ones of Japan since we're going in 3 weeks. Thanks for all you do. Well, thanks Anna for watching. I appreciate it. Jose Martinez says, thank you, Chris. SoCal Seth says, second on Cedar Point. Vape and Jason says you need to go to Cedar Point as well. We're the #1 amusement park in the world. You're probably right, I do. Swiss04 says, I love Universal Studios Singapore and Orlando. Well, you should visit the one in Hollywood too. Make it a trifecta. So that's it. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you all in 3 weeks, or maybe sooner if the hotel Wi-Fi gods are with us. But if not, then mark your calendars for March 19th. All right, keep on traveling, everybody. Peace.